Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome to the last match day review of the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. Thank you very much for joining us. As always, joining you is myself, Ewan Ramsey, and Alan Scrimger. We do hope you're all good and well. As we have approached the end of season 23-24 in the Scottish Premiership. A lot to talk about next week with our final podcast of the season for our season review. But obviously, we're going to touch on the last game that was held at Tynecastle just at the weekend there with a thrilling free draw against Rangers. The only point that we have picked up against Rangers all season, but I guess one is better than none. So we'll obviously going through the bits and bobs about that. I would like to say that we would like to do a preview for next week's game, but unfortunately, we'll have to wait a few weeks for the new season. So, as I said, we will bring you some small details about what we're going to be doing next week for our season review. But as always, we do hope you enjoy this one as we go through the game. So, as always, guys, we mentioned it last week. We've had a good influx of new subscribers and new followers as well for our various social media channels as well. So a big massive thank you to everyone who has done so. It is really greatly appreciated. But if you want to tell your friends as well, please tell them to subscribe to the YouTube channel in the link below and in the description as well. And if you want to get in contact with us as usual through our socials, please feel free to do so. And yeah, we do hope you enjoy. So, Alan, it's come to an end of season 23-24. I think we could probably both agree it has been a rather successful one. A wee bit of a bumpy ride, but nonetheless, has been mostly positive. Obviously, we'll get into a bit more a detail and into depth as we talk about this year and plans for next year when we get to next week. But after the game was done, overall, what's your overall feeling with this season in general?
Yeah, I think you can't say it's not been successful. Overall, had like you say, had a few bumps in the road, certainly early on. But since about sort of November, December time, it's just been, we've just motored on and obviously went on the run and yeah, not bad for a rookie manager in his first full season. Some saw it as a gamble. I did, certainly, giving him the job. But yeah, he's certainly proven to be a solid and stable appointment. It helps that we've got the top goal scorer and best player in the country leading the line for us. But yeah, I don't think I don't think any Hearts fan will be dissatisfied with this season. I think two semi-finals and a third place at a canter is kind of what you want. Obviously, it would have been nice to win a trophy, but if you can't make a final, a semi's not that bad. Aye, it is what it is.
Absolutely, sir. And just to add to that as well, I believe this is the sixth award that Shanklin has won, as you sent me this morning, that he has actually won the Golden Boot, the first Hearts player to do so since 88. Is that right?
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
just breaking
John
records.
Robertson.
Yeah, just breaking records left, right, and center. But again, it's nice to see somebody else apart from anybody in the old firm. So absolutely delighted to see. We will not, or we will try not to talk about Lawrence Shankland in this podcast around any unnecessary speculation whether he'll stay or go. We will try to keep it a relatively Shankland free podcast. So, Alan, the first goal was scored by Lawrence Shankland. What do you make? What do you make of that? No, no, no.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was
Obviously,
coming.
obviously, obviously, we will start with the lineup of Saturday's game. We went with a 4-2-3-1. We had Clark back in between the sticks, a back four of Cochrane, Rolls, Kent, and a very eyebrow raising Kingsley at right back. Our centre two of the Benny and Devlin, and our forward line of Oda, Vargas, Mackay, and Shankland. One name I'd like to start off with, Alan, because you and me were on a kind of two different uh, minds of if he'll stay or if he'll go in terms of his future. And it was only just a couple of days ago that our beloved central midfielder Benny Beningame has signed on another 2 years, contracting him to Tynecastle until 2026. I think you could probably agree that he was one of the more important players that we have coming to the end of his contract to try and get tied down for a few years longer. Pretty satisfied, yeah?
Yeah, delighted, delighted. I know there's people that are not that fond of Benny, and they have their opinions, and that's fine. But I think I saw something on Twitter the other day which summed it up for me. It was, you remember Jim when he was in midfield for Hearts
Yeah.
and how good he was, and then when he left, there was a massive hole where he used to be.
Mm-hmm.
People basically said Benny would be that again. And yeah, I think that's pretty spot on, to be honest. One of these sorts of players that you don't know what you've got till he's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So delighted to see him sign a new deal. Huge bit of business, and I think he said something along the lines of Naismith's quite difficult to say no to, which I can imagine he probably would be, because I was starting to worry that he might be away, just because we hadn't heard anything. But yeah, pleasing, very pleasing indeed.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And it was nice to see him on top form as well, as was the whole team. I thought
Yeah,
for the meaningless game, I actually thought it was quite an entertaining game. If I'm honest, I thought both sides actually played relatively well. But obviously, we can start, as I said, with the first goal was a like you can't. It's just Shanklin doing Shanklin things, eh? Obviously, they caught them on the break, and it was a lovely through ball from Oda, who, as you mentioned to me as well, I thought overall he had a terrific game.
yeah,
He was doing tricks as well, which I was fucking
yeah.
very aroused by. Like, it was like, oh, hello. But yeah, I thought he had a fantastic game as well. And the finish from Shanklin as well. Again, you think he's like probably going to try and go for Butland's right hand side as opposed to our like sort of view of the left side, but to just chip him like that, I mean, even to have the stones to chip him, again, it was just a beautiful finish, and to wrap up the season with 31 goals, like as you said at the start as well, to have a Hearts player win the Golden Boot in our lifetime, it's just amazing to see.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if he would have tried that finish if he was on 29 goals for the season. I think the fact he hit the 30th the other week there kind of took the pressure off a bit. But yeah, I know we said we won't talk about Shanklin too much, but it was a phenomenal finish from a player that has just had the season of his life. So yeah, no, delighted. It was nice to see Oda getting a run out as well. I thought, when I saw his name in the starting 11, I thought that's good. And yeah, as you say, he was very, very good for most of the game. But yeah, just Shanklin doing Shanklin things, isn't it? Like you say, he's just phenomenal. And it was funny because when he was through, like it was because Tavernier, who's apparently some sort of absolute god for Rangers, but he's been absolutely awful this season for them. He was nowhere defensively. I mean, he can take a good penalty, but he can't defend. So Shanklin was just free, and it was a really, really good finish. But you would put your money on him putting that away every day of the week, which is just the confidence that he has at the moment. And it made a good start. Like we actually started the game very well, to the point where I was thinking when we went one up, I was like, yeah, probably deserve that. Probably deserve that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I do agree. I did thought overall we started quite well. Obviously, there was the mishap of when Rose lost the ball in our own box, but
Yeah,
terrific reflexes from Xander as well. I mean, I don't know how much he knew about it, like just hit anywhere of my body, but it was a really a good save as well. But um, you know, I would argue that all the goals scored by all teams were actually quite decent as well. Obviously, I know we
Yeah.
won't speak too much about it, but I genuinely thought that the three goals scored by Rangers as well, for all as much as I fucking hate all three of them, uh, referring to the Causland, the Cantwell, and fucking what's his pass like fucking
Silva.
I like. I mean, I actually thought about it earlier today. He almost looks like if if um David Luiz had been punched in the face and not washed his hair for a week. Like that's who I think he's actually channeling, my man. But
Yeah, it's not a bad shout.
yeah, right. But to be fair, I thought all other goals were actually taken quite well. Obviously, two of them. Like, I mean, you can't expect Clark to do any better than he tried to. Like,
Yeah,
obviously on the far right post, dipped in. Um,
yeah,
and the build up for Silva's goal as well. Like again, like you can't argue that it was quite a good like build up of play as well in the
yeah.
goal. So by that point, 3-1 down, last day of the season. Do you think while you were watching it, do you think that that could have been the game done?
Yeah, I mean, I think like just to sort of quickly go back to this, the one like you're right. I think all three goals or all six goals were actually very good. The best one being the last one, but we'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about that after. Um, I thought McCausland's goal was decent, but I will say that Cochrane nearly gets his head kicked off in the build up to it, but he sort of ducks out the way of it because he doesn't want to get his head kicked off. But there's definitely a high foot there, and I don't know why the referee didn't do something about it. But anyway, that's just sour grapes at this point. Yeah, I thought their goals were good, but you could understand it. Like, and as much as we say it was a meaningless game and there wasn't really anything riding on it, Rangers do have a cup final to be ready for. So there were obviously players in that team that were trying to prove to the manager that they should play in the cup final. So there was an element of something at stake for them, like individually. But yeah, at 3-1, I know there was some Hearts fans I noticed that left early when we went 3-1 down. And I would never leave a game early myself. But last game of the season with nothing riding on it, I can kind of understand, especially the weather being as glorious as it was. I think if there was a choice between sitting in Tynecastle watching us get tanked by Rangers or sitting in a beer garden with a pint, I'd probably pick the beer garden and the pint at that point. But yeah, I mean it is what it is. It wasn't, like I say, we didn't have anything riding on the game, but Rangers certainly did, and you could tell. But I think that made it a very good game.
Mm. Just to go back to it, since I mentioned it at the start, obviously we had Kingsley at right back. Obviously, we all know that he's known for that, the beast of a left foot. Why do you think Naismith chose to play Kingsley at the right back, and especially with no Atkinson in the squad as well? Do you think? I mean, I've not heard any word that he's been injured or anything like that. But do you have any like sort of idea why that could have been?
I don't know. I honestly don't. I know that obviously, Naismith's been talking the last few times about, the right back being a priority position and all that. And I get it. I understand it because it's a priority position for him because we don't really have anybody apart from Natty. Obviously, we've got Dexter, but Dexter's only on loan. So you're looking at that going, well, there will be a new right back next season. And yeah, I mean, the last time we saw Natty was against Celtic when we lost. So that was wasn't great. And yeah, look, it's one of those things. I think he's just looking at options. I think that's what we're seeing at the moment. I think Kingsley did very well at right back, considering it's not his natural position. But at this point, I don't really know what Kingsley's natural position is. He just seems to be very good everywhere, which is amazing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for Atkinson. I hope that Naismith is simply trying other options to see if we maybe don't need to go out and buy somebody rather than, we're going to try options instead of Atkinson. But I don't know. I think we probably will see a new right back. Whether that means Atkinson goes, I don't know.
Mm.
but I hope not, because obviously, I like Atkinson and he's had his critics. And to be fair, I'm not going to sit here and defend him because I've done that enough this season for people to probably be a bit fed up with it. But there's reasons why I think Atkinson has kind of tailed off a little bit, which I'll probably talk a bit more about next week when we go proper into kind of squad reviews and end of season stuff. But yeah, as I say, what was I saying? Kingsley is a fantastic right back. Who knew? He did very, very well.
Fair dues on that one as well. Um, I mean, going into 3-1 at halftime again, like I thought the exact same. I thought, well, like I mean, it's the last game of the season. There's not anything at stake, so can't be arsed about it. So, but when we got into the second half, there were plenty of chances for both sides as well. Obviously, there was the free header for the Vargas as well, which you could argue that he probably could have done better, or at least to get it on target. But again, it's irrelevant now. And the two volleys from both of our goals. I mean, I don't know which one was. Sorry, I do know which one was better, but the finish from Dexter, considering that it might be his last game for the club as well. I thought it was an outstanding finish. It was a really good ball in from the Vargas, who I also thought had a good game as well. He was free at the back post, just slots it right into to the bottom corner. Really good finish, and yeah, obviously that lifted the spirits a wee bit. Concerning Dexter, I'm not going to go as far to say as, he's convinced me that he's a player that I think we would like to sign. But if there was an option for a maybe like a year's loan, just to have as a backup as well, would that be something you would entertain, or would you just be more kind of focused on actually getting a more prominent right back?
I'm not really a huge fan of Dexter, to be honest with you. It's nothing against him. I think he's a good young prospect at a decent level. But we already have one right back that is not great at defending, and is better going forward. We don't need a second one, because I've seen, Dexter get caught out a few times this season. He got caught out in the game against Rangers, the Silva goal. He should have just anticipated and got to the ball first, and Silva beat him to it and scored. So I think Dexter has a lot of holes in his game defensively. Probably too many for me to be crying for us to sign him. I think there's sort of parallels to the Cochrane loan when he came up from Brighton. But with Alex Cochrane, we knew this kid is a real prospect that we can mould and make better and improve, because Cochrane was good defensively when he first got here. So I think that's the difference between the two. And I just, as much as I like, Dexter as a player, I think he's good going forward, as I say. But if you were to tell me he was a right winger and we could bring him in as a right winger, I might say, do you know what, fair enough. But it's not a right winger that we need. So no, I don't think. Certainly for me, if I was the one making the decisions, I don't think I would have him back. But in the same way as Scott Fraser, the other loan, again, we'll probably talk more about it, but I wouldn't take a punt on him either. To be quite honest, he's not. I mean, he's had a few injuries here and there, but I've not really seen enough for me to go, yeah, do you know what, this guy is, a good enough player to have at least on the bench for us, which maybe with a full preseason, you don't know. But yeah, anyway, back to Dexter. I like him. It was a tidy finish. Came at a time when, again, the game we were actually doing quite well. That was the most frustrating thing for me. I think it's taken me quite a while to use that word today, but the three Rangers goals were our own. They were our own downfall. We kind of lost the ball in silly situations or gave it away. But the one thing I will say about our performance was we were efficient. We didn't have as many chances as Rangers, but we took the ones that we had, and I think that's huge. That's a huge kind of element that I think Naismith is obviously instilling in them, and it's that it doesn't matter if we're 3-1 down, we keep going, we keep fighting. And obviously, to get the second goal to come back to 3-2, you're going, okay, it's respectable. Even if Rangers then went on and got fourth, you're going, ah, well, do you know what? At least we gave it a fight. But
Aye.
yeah, it was a tidy finish. Like you, I thought Vargas was very good. For him to finish with 9 goals in his first season is good. I'll be intrigued to see what his role is next season, depending on how our attacking line looks. But yeah, he's been another one I've been very impressed with, and it was again on show on Saturday.
Absolutely. And just to wrap it off with another Japanese fireball who picks and chooses when to fucking light it up, eh? Like the last two games of the fucking season, and I know that we've had a few conversations about, like if he's a player that that we want to stick with, if he's a player that we just want to punt, because like obviously the money that's getting thrown around these days in all of the top leagues is just ridiculous. But from us to spend a six-figure fee, that's quite big, and we've said it quite a few times that we want Tagawa to actually work. He's shown very small glimpses of talent, but it's just not actually kind of worked out in some respects. But his last two games, I thought he's been absolutely outstanding. And I would argue that the equaliser that he scored right at the death, I thought overall that's probably one, and maybe say top 10, maybe top 5 goals that we've all scored all season. I thought it was taken incredibly well out of the blue as well. Sorry, pardon me. Yeah, just out of the blue as well. When he scored, like I actually had to blink, like, oh yeah, fucker, yes, brilliant. And obviously, it was a long ball from Clark. Why the fuck Frankie Kent was up that far? I have no idea, but I'm thankful that he was. And then just a bullet straight in to the corner, and a nice wee wrap up to the season as well. So, just based on these last few games, when he's actually played, do you think he's done enough in these last 2 games to, at worst, buy him some time to actually show what he can do for next year?
So and it was just like you say, it was just an unbelievable goal. Like I don't know if you've seen it, but the Hearts Twitter account, and I'll suggest this in general. The Hearts Twitter account posted up the Hearts TV coverage of the Tagawa goal, and Laurie goes absolutely schizo, and I'm very much here for it. I think the thing about Tagawa that and I've said this a few times this season, I'm not really sure what his role is. I'm not really sure if he's a wide player, if he's a winger, or if he's a central striker. But I think the biggest thing for me, and like I was speaking to people at work about this earlier on today, that the only reason that we haven't seen a lot of Tagawa is because Shankland is his competition, for a start. And you're not going to bench a goal scorer like Laurie Shankland for an experiment. Let's be honest, that's what he is, a project experiment player like Tagawa, who's obviously taking time to settle and learning the language and all that. And yeah, so it's really really nice to see him finish the season well, because it's confidence, and it's a bit of, yeah, I can score goals at this level, and I am capable of doing that. How consistently he can do it, who knows? But with 2 goals in 2 games, it's pretty damn impressive. And yeah, like it's also like, I know there's obviously been a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people throughout the season with similar views to me of, do we keep him? Do we move him on? Like there was rumors of January interest in him from back home and also in Portugal as well. I believe there was some interested clubs in there, but Hearts chose not to sell him because it was like, no, we're not giving up on him. Like he's got something. So that's pleasing. I think he's done very very well, but I think the biggest positive for me, and it might just be because he's got an incredibly catchy song, um, is that the fans in the stadium have always backed him, and they've always been behind him, and they've always given him encouragement. Because we know what some Hearts fans can be like. We know what some sections of our support can be when it comes to players underperforming, or just players that they don't particularly like, which is fine. If a player's underperforming, then, you can be a bit disappointed. But I think perspective is needed with Tagawa. This is a guy that has scored goals in decent levels of football, and he's obviously a Japanese international as well. So there's got to be something in his game. How much we'll see of him next season, again, it'll depend on how our attacking lineup looks like next season. But the technique for that goal and his goal against St Mirren as well, to be fair, it's there's definitely a lot of encouraging signs there in that. And I'm very, very happy to see it because, as I say, I was unsure to the point where I was kind of on the fence of if we got a bid in the summer, maybe let him go. Don't
Mm.
actively look to let him go, but maybe let him go if there's money there. But now I look at him and I go, yeah, it's with a
Right.
full
Yeah.
preseason, with a full preseason under his belt, and maybe the opportunity of more games if the worst should happen, which I won't mention because we said we're not going to talk about him, but if the
Nope.
worst should happen, there will be more appearances there for Tagawa to have. So, do I trust him to lead the line for us? I think it's very, very early to say
Oh
that,
yeah.
but he's definitely warming up. And
Yeah.
it's annoying that he's chosen the last two games of the season to do that. But the biggest, just before I give you it back, the most impressive thing for me was that he'd only been on the park for about 10 minutes
Yeah.
before that goal. And, you look at that and you go, it normally takes a bit of time to kind of get into the pace of the game and get up to speed with it. But it might help that it was obviously in the last stages of the game. But for us to go long ball route one, it's not something that you see, and it's not a Stephen Naismith thing for us to go route one for Clark to just lump it like that. But it worked.
You're
Frankie
fucking
Kent
right.
got thrown up front in the closing stages just to be awkward, and he was. He wins his flick on brilliantly, and as I say, Tagawa's connection with the goal was outstanding, and it is up there as one of the goals of the season for me. I think
Yeah.
Alan Forrest obviously won it for his goal against Hibs, which is totally understandable. Shanklin's goal against Hibs in the last minute as well is up there, but I don't really, if I don't know if there's any that jump out at you, but that Tagawa goal for me was brilliant, and I
Yeah.
think, as I say, the fans went absolutely mental, and there was several renditions of the Tagawa song, which again was just really, really nice to hear.
Oh, absolutely, Alan. I mean, when I was even watching the St Mirren game, I believed it was clocked at 12 straight minutes that the fans were singing that song. I'm not even joking. You just kept singing it over and over and over again, and I was fucking here for it. So at the end of the game, Hearts finished on 68 points, which is absolutely phenomenal. And wrapping up the season with a European group stage trip, which obviously we will get into more depth next week when we do our season review. Just before we wrap up as well, because obviously at this time we would like to do a preview, but this for both myself and Alan, this almost kind of feels like like a sore breakup for two of our um, uh, footballing affairs, if you will. As we've heard, three players will be leaving definitely when we get to the summer. Obviously, our third choice goalkeeper, McGovern, Alan's Austrian love, Peter Haring, will also be leaving after 6 years at the club. And Andy Halliday will make his move permanent to Motherwell in the summer. Um, Obviously, I won't mention too much about Halliday because we will probably be here another hour. But I'm sure that you saw it, the video that they did for Peter Haring and the Guard of Honor, which I thought was quite a nice touch, especially up until Michael Smith left. Peter Haring took up the mantle of our longest serving player in the squad. Um, yeah, it's a bit weird. It's, I don't know. I didn't. feel this with Michael Smith. I don't know why, but it's going to be a lot more noticeable, if that's the right word, that Haring's not going to be there for all as much as he had these, he had his injuries throughout this year, especially. You know, to have him on the bench, at least you always knew what you were going to get with Haring. Obviously we've talked about plenty of times, about his the positives of his game, the things that he's not so great at, etc. But you always had a good, solid central like sort of midfielder, in Haring, and I think I think I hope that he still goes on to play for at least a few more years because I still think he is a top quality football player for all as much as I've had my issues, let's say, in the past. I still think he is a top player. So, how you doing, there, buddy? You all right, Jan?
I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay. The Benny contract extension kind of raised my mood a little bit
Aye.
when the news about Haring leaving was tragic, absolutely tragic. I think people underappreciated Haring. I think that's fair
Yeah.
to say. I think
And look,
he was,
sorry to interrupt as well. I think I could probably fall in that category, as well, in terms of
yeah,
under appreciation.
which is totally fair. Which is totally fair. Like he did the hard graft that people don't like to do. And he was just, he was one of those players that came into the club as I think he was signed as a centre back initially, if I remember rightly, and ended
Oh,
up playing
what a
in
team!
midfield.
What a team
He
back in that day.
ended up playing in midfield, and listen. Peter Haring has seen some things at Hearts. He has seen some absolute shitters. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
And he's just been a constant. And I think that's the thing. Like sometimes players come into a football club and they're not there for very long, and they leave an impression, and then they leave, and everyone's like, "Oh, remember him? Yeah." I think Haring will be that kind of
Oh yeah.
player. One of those that in a few years people go, "Remember Peter Haring?" And it's criminal that he didn't make anywhere near as many appearances as he should have. He was robbed by injuries and concussions and knees and ankles and everything else. He just seemed to just pick up one after the other every time he was coming back. But yeah, he's such a good guy. And you're like, you know what? Like every time, like I've spoken to fans that have met him, and it's just nobody has a bad word to say about Peter Haring. And I think that comes across, and he did his, I managed to pluck up the courage and the bravery to watch the goodbye interview, if you want to call it that. And he spoke so fondly of Hearts, and it's clear that we've left an impression on him, and we've left a feeling of this is home, and this is a part of him, which is amazing. Yeah, just a top bloke, and I think Team Handsome has taken a hit with Peter Haring's departure, so I think Stephen Naismith needs to go out and find another headband wearing Adonis in the summer, or I will not be satisfied. I think Jan Danda wears a
I
headband actually,
believe
so that
literally what I was about to say. I think we have one
yeah,
in on its way, man.
so that might balance it out a bit, but there's not enough headbands in Hearts. Get the headbands back.
Absolutely, my man. Well, I do agree, mate. I think it will be fair to say, as a person as well, I think he will be sorely missed, and
Yeah, the big
the only,
glorious Austrian that he is.
absolutely, my man. And the only thing that I have to add is that I will probably be most likely getting a season ticket for a park to see more of my main man. But yeah, I think just to touch head quickly on Halliday, I think if you gave him a job to do anywhere on the pitch, he would do a decent job. I know I've had some disagreements with some people about Halliday, but I thought he was a good solid player, and I think regardless of what you thought of him as well, I think he always gave 100% as well. Even if he
Yeah,
wasn't having a good game, like
he
he
understood.
still,
He understood
yeah,
his job.
absolutely. I mean, so I think you know he will be missed as well, and I do hope all three players um do well in their future as well. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see who else we bring in throughout the summertime as well. But with the already free incoming players that have been confirmed on pre-contracts as well, if we get more like that, I think we'll be pretty satisfied. But as I said, we're going to be doing our season review next week with a few guests as well, which will be exciting as well to get everybody's opinions as well. And we would, as always, love to get your opinions in as well. And if you have any questions or any discussion points you guys would like to hear in our review next week, please send them all in. It's always appreciated to talk about what you guys want to talk about as well. And I think from me and Alan, obviously we might not mention it as much because we'll be in with guests, but I think from us both, a massive thank you to you all. To again, after what 3 or 4 seasons, I think that this is the third one we're doing in the podcast as well. Something that we thought that might not run that long, and we're about 114 115 episodes in deep now, so, and we're still enjoying it as the first day we started. So generally, guys, honestly, thank you so much as well, and to all the new subscribers and the original ones as well that have kept with us as well. It's generally greatly appreciated. Yeah, Alan, that was your cue to say thank you as well, but okay.
Sorry, I was nodding along. I was expecting you to wrap it up there. Yeah, it's been a hell of a journey. Sorry, I was just nodding along like the dog in the adverts. Yeah, you said everything. You said everything. I agree. It's going to be interesting to see what next season brings, and we'll be here to waffle about it constantly every week.
Absolutely. So yeah, guys, thank you very much, and we shall see you next week as well for our season review. And again, if you haven't subscribed yet, please think about subscribing and get in contact with us through our socials as well in the descriptions as well. So guys, thank you very much, and we will see you in the next one, and we hope you have a lovely week ahead. You all take care. Bye for now.